I think as entrepreneurs, we get so tunnel vision and we get so focused on the prize, whatever that is, that we don't see anything else. And it takes a kick in the balls, it takes cancer, it takes, a divorce, it takes that to actually say, whoa, there's more to life than just this. How amazing my team was without me in the way, like causing interference, was a very cool, like a great moment of like, yay, go team. And then like, damn it, I suck. Like, I'm not as important as I thought I was. And really that realization was really, like I said, it was cool and deflating at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with cancer. I'm the happiest person with cancer in the world. It's made me really love my family. It's really made me appreciate my kids, and waking up every single day and seeing the sun and seeing the mountains and seeing everything and just appreciating that has been phenomenal.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 5 of the Community Made Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Gaynard. In our last episode, we had Gary V drop some knowledge bombs talking about growth through acquisitions, how he looks at his investment portfolio, building the right leadership team, and working with his brother AJ, who served as his COO, and just so much more. As you already know, this season is all about building the right size business, and we'll be hearing from people who have various different perspectives on what that means. If you've been listening up until this point, you've already heard me push back on the religion of scale in episode 2, with that episode being titled Scaling is Stupid. And now you've heard from a very special session with Gary, who did the complete opposite and has a very different viewpoint from me. But in today's episode, we asked the question, if you had to step away from your business tomorrow, would it survive? There's a saying that the 4 business killers are the 4 Ds: death, disease, divorce, and disruption. If you fell sick, do you have the right systems in place and the right people in the right seats of your business for it to keep going? Luckily, Jordan did. Jordan was a very incredibly successful entrepreneur who built his company Molding Box while fighting stage 3 melanoma cancer. Today on the show, I'm going to share an interview that we did a few years ago. Now, sadly, Jordan did not win this fight with cancer. He actually passed away a few weeks after the recording. So this interview will always hold a very special place in my heart. And one of the rules I made when coming out with this podcast was that every interview I did had to be in person. There was a hard line in the sand, non-negotiable. This is the only time I'm going to do a negotiable because it was such a special episode. And this was back when I was doing interviews over Skype. So the audio quality may not be as great as the other podcast episodes that we've done historically and that we'll continue to do in the future. But like I said, this episode is definitely an exception. It's really special. So a little bit about Jordan. He founded the company Molding Box in 2005 at the age of 21, and it was a success. They achieved rapid growth and the acquisition of a print company. Molding Box went from 3 employees to 50 almost overnight. Jordan received multiple awards and industry accolades, including Top 40 Under 40 and the nomination of Entrepreneur of the Year. But it was at that time when he had to make that kind of decision to scale when he actually received the cancer diagnosis. At that point, Jordan essentially was forced to back away from the company because his cancer treatments made handling the day-to-day operations unsustainable. So he hired a CEO and assembled a management team to run Molding Box in his absence in order to focus on his family and on his health. Jordan was an avid world traveler, philanthropist, and volunteer. That's the one thing I honored immensely about him. He was an active member of the organization Stop Hunger Now and the Caring House Project, where he became part of the relief effort in Haiti, helping to build homes for displaced people there. He had just an incredible outlook on life, and in this conversation, he and I really dug deep and had just this really honest conversation about business, relationships, and facing your own mortality, and being forced to put his ego aside, which ultimately changed his life and changed how he ran his business. This is one of the most, I can't say it enough, one of the most special interviews I've done to date, so I really hope you enjoy it. And just a quick warning about language, there's a few 4-letter words in this episode. I don't remember if it was Jordan who said it or me, so just be aware in case you're listening with your children. All right, enjoy. So were you always, were you good at letting go prior to the diagnosis? Like, did you know you were going to scale the company and put the right people on the bus? Or did that diagnosis kind of fast track that process and you said, there's no way I can stay in this business. I need to, structure it so that I can remove myself?
It was cancer that made it happen. I was always good at delegating. I was never good at accountability. So I would delegate easily, but I lost a lot of money because I wouldn't hold people accountable. I would let people go and just do their own things and, kind of just manage themselves, which the good thing that I always did was I could attract good people. I'm fairly personable. I'm very authentic. I'm very transparent, and it's kind of a double-edged sword because it's nice because I attract good people, but then I also attract shitbags that will not do what they're supposed to be doing, and then they take management, and it's just a pain in the butt. But I've always been able to attract great talent and good people that have helped me along the way. So when I got diagnosed, when I bought the print company back in 2009, it came with 3 employees, and 2 of them I really considered partners, right? Like they were there for me, they were going to help me and everything like that. And so when I left Molding Box, when I first got diagnosed, when I left, I kind of turned it over to them too. And within a month, I really realized, like, holy shit, these guys aren't partners. They're too afraid to act. And it really started to show me how much relied on me, like how much of my mind and time was actually fully integrated throughout all of Molding Box. So I started really looking, and the first thing to let go was like, just because they were business owners or whatever it is, doesn't mean that they know everything about the business. And, just because they say they're partners doesn't mean they're actually partners or acting like partners. And so the first letting go was like letting go of those preconceived notions of, oh, these guys should run it, and really just looking and saying who's performing. And that's where I found Doug, who was our operations guy. Actually, we hired him probably about a month or 2 before I got diagnosed. And I think I only worked with him for probably a month before, I really left Molding Box. And just seeing that he was producing and looking at the numbers and seeing what he was doing, I quickly just started giving him more responsibilities of saying, okay, well, we have, let's say 5 different divisions of Molding Box, and he was taking care of 1. I gave him 3 within a week. And then, within another couple weeks, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to promote you to CEO. Like, you just need to make the decisions, or not decisions, but you need to just get this thing running efficiently. And really what happened is as I started just, being weaker and weaker. I mean, I went through radiation 2 years ago. I went through 20 plus days of radiation in June. And then I went through chemo in August, and radiation, the first couple of weeks aren't that bad. And then, week 3 and 4 just shit, like horrible. Was tired, couldn't do anything. Week 4 was just, didn't eat for, probably for week 4. And then week 5, 6, 7, just didn't eat. I lost 70 pounds just because it just, nothing was appetizing. It was just a horrible experience. And then from that, recovering, going into chemo and everything like that just really made me realize, like, I can't be there. I can't go into the office. I can't do that things. And so turning it all over to Doug, it was really kind of a no choice, right? Like, I had to get out of the way because I was forced to. And I just kind of like threw it to the wind and said, well, I hope this works. I hope everything's going well. I had originally relied on those 2 partners, and that fell through. So putting Doug up there, just seeing the little he had done was so great. And then just kind of, it was really just that leap of faith of like, okay, go. And it was really rewarding, and kind of, what is it? Like deflating at the same time, because then my ego just went like womp womp womp, because realizing like how good they were once I was gone, how amazing my team was without me in the way, like causing interference, was a very cool, like a great moment of like, yay, go team, and then like, damn it, I suck, like, I'm not as important as I thought I was. And really that realization was really, like I said, it was cool and deflating at the same time.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things. Like, my last business, I had an online e-commerce business where we probably had about 20 employees or something like that. But none of them were A players. I was terrible at hiring talent. I was like overly trusting. And people who were not the right fit, I was terrible at firing them as well. So it wasn't a good combination. But that's one thing I'm really, I mean, you hear it all the time about having the right people on the bus and getting, hire slowly and fire fast and that kind of stuff. And just the importance of it. And I can only imagine when you have that team in place, just being able to let go. And I think your journey over the past, 2-3 years is really a testament to that. So that's amazing. So take us back to 2012, around the time of this kind of, I guess, this shift in your life to a certain degree, shift in your business.
So 2012, that was an interesting year. So like I said, I get diagnosed with cancer in April of 2012. What really happened, I went through a pretty crazy personal journey, right? So like really, like facing your own doom and really looking at death and really looking at like, okay, well, who am I? What does all this shit that I've been doing really mean? Like prior to 2012, I was an asshole. Like and in the sense, like, not like I was always personable, I was always friendly, I was always positive, stuff like that. But just to my wife and my family, and like, I would always put molding box ahead of everything. I'd always put money ahead and success and fame and just the things of the ego ahead, and I'd put those as my first priority. And so I'd always constantly strive on doing that. With the diagnosis, like it really just kind of kicked me in the balls and told me, okay, well, you got to reconsider some of your the way you think. It took all the way of like going through one round of biochemo, which is like, it was 7 different drugs there I was on, or 5 different drugs. It was 3 different chemo drugs and 2 immune therapy drugs, and like just like craziness, right? Like being in the hospital for a week, just having a crazy time. During that time, one of my clients had sent me a book called The China Study. Okay. And so I read it, kind of really got absorbed into it. Really, had a lot of questions just start popping up, because when you hear about cancer, you immediately think, okay, well, I'm going to go talk to a doctor, and the doctor's going to tell me everything's going to be okay, or this is what they're going to do, and everything's going to be fine. When I went to the doctor and they kind of started really laying it out, and they said, well, with you have a 5% chance of living over the next 5 years. We don't know a lot about melanoma. We don't know a lot about, these things. And really it put that big, like the chink in the armor, right, of like the medical establishment. Then starting to read the China Study really put that doubt in my mind of like, what the hell is actually going on here? And then, I went to my doctor and I started talking with him about the China Study, and just was really turned off by his answers and the way he shut me down. And, I sent him a follow-up email, asked him some questions, and he just came back and was very short and actually ended up firing me and just saying like, well, if you don't trust me, I can't be your doctor. Talk to another doctor. And I'm just like, dude, like, it's not that I don't trust you. It's that this is only my life I'm dealing with. The first time I've dealt with this. And so sorry if I'm asking you questions, but I'd rather have you you're the number one, you are the top of the class with all this shit. I'd rather have you as my doctor. I don't know why you're trying to pawn me off, but he did that. And I went through some crazy times. Like I after reading that book, I really went into that like inward journey of just questioning everything about myself, what I believe in, why I believe in the things, who I am as a person, and really just all of it. Like, going through that, I've kind of, I say, I am a whole different person. All of the things that I thought I knew are just completely wrong. Like, just totally wrong from everything that I thought. And so, I had this journey of like anger and, like the fear and the whatever it was against the medical establishment. So, I went on a long, arduous, like, natural path, or natural healing, and thinking about how your thoughts create your reality, and your emotions, and your just everything about your physical side, your nutrition, your diet, and your environment, and really went kind of hardcore that way. Did really like hour-a-day meditation, journaling, would exercise, went vegan, went raw, like started juicing all the time, really started to get my mind in line, really started to question myself, really, kind of went down the Buddhist path, went down, like read a lot about Christ, read a lot about religion, tried to find God, and did all these things. And what I really realized, I was up in Idaho at this homeopathic doctor.
Yeah.
Doing just some crazy treatments up there, like getting my blood infused with UV light, and getting oxygenation, and doing high dose vitamin C, and all sorts of crazy stuff. And I was outside smoking a joint, just looking at the sky, and it just kind of dawned on me, like me and my wife had been talking a lot, and like it kind of dawned on me, just like, what, on this big fucking rock, or not even a big rock, a tiny grain of sand in the middle of nowhere in the solar system, right? And we're in the middle of, and our solar system is in the middle of nowhere of the overall universe. And you know, kind of bringing all that back down and saying, holy crap, like, you know, the medical establishment, the naturopaths, and all these things, we're all in the same boat. We're all at this point in time where we've never faced what we faced before. We've never faced the outbreaks of cancer, diabetes, and chronic disease. We've never faced any of this stuff. And maybe, just maybe, the medical establishment isn't so evil. You know, maybe, just maybe, they are trying to heal people and do all this stuff. And so kind of went full circle and really started opening my mind to say, you know, I don't necessarily care what cures me anymore. I just care that something does. And, you know, I'm not going to, you know, hold some crazy value or it has to be done the natural way over just getting healthy, you know? And so came back around and really like, and at the same time, like my tumors were growing, you know, the natural stuff, it's so arduous and so disciplined and so regimented that it got to the point where it's like, I'm not living, I'm just not dying. Like all I'm doing is just sitting here waiting for my next juice, or sitting here waiting for my, you know, pH balance to be perfect, or whatever it was. And I got to the point where it's like, you know what? Like, I don't believe life's about that. You know, I don't believe life's about having a perfectly a box you need to live in. You know, I think that we can choose to do whatever we're going to do and kind of walk down whatever path we choose. And for me, like I've really come to the acceptance and the realization that cancer for me is just a gift. You know, it's just something that happened. It made me change my life. It made me really relook at my priorities, what I cared about, what I wanted, and at the end of the day, like if I die, I die. We all got to die at some point in time, right? That's not a big shock to anyone. You know, everyone is mortal. You know, anyone could walk outside and get hit by a bus today and be over, and kind of come full circle of like, you know, I'm down for that. Like I'm totally okay with cancer. I'm the happiest person with cancer in the world. It's made me really love my family. It's really made me appreciate my kids, and waking up every single day and seeing the sun and seeing the mountains and seeing everything and just appreciating that has been phenomenal. And then with the business, it's also like, it's really made me really define our core values and focus on those, not on just making money and not on just the, well, great, we got a cool award or anything like that. Like for me, it's, hey, how can we change people's lives? What can we do that's going to do something so much better than anyone else? And how can we put be people behind the business? You know, like business isn't just some institute. It's a bunch of dudes or chicks or people working together to accomplish common goals, and really infusing that into Molding Box. Like the way personally how I've changed my life is really reflected in Molding Box on how we run the business now as well.
Yeah, I mean, I heard in an interview, probably one of the most powerful things I've heard in the last year was when you said, I will no longer have cancer when cancer no longer serves me. Mm-hmm. Have you always been, the beautiful thing about you is you're very positive from a mindset perspective, but you're not overly positive. Mm-hmm. There's some people you meet, they're just delusional to a certain degree when it comes to positivity. And like your ownership, as far as like the situation you're in, you know, a lot of people will move to playing the victim card in a case like this, right? And you're one of the few people where, I mean, just hearing you talk about it, your ownership in the situation, and you're facing the harsh reality that, you know, this may be your last few years or it may not be. Mm-hmm. Have you always had that kind of that positive mindset, or was there something that caused that?
You know, I think the answer's twofold. I would say yes, I've always had the positive mindset, but I didn't realize I could control it. I didn't realize that it was in my power to deal with. Does that make sense? So it was really like, I've always been positive, I've always been outgoing, I've always been optimistic, I've always had that stuff. But it wasn't until cancer that I really realized that it was in my control. It really was, I could choose to make today special or not. And I think that was one of the big lessons I've learned is, you know, I've always been, like I said, always been happy, always been able to go out and just, you know, been resilient, been able to roll with the punches. You know, I come from a family where I was number 5 of 6. So at that point in time, like everyone else was happy around me, I was happy. You know, I was always led. I was always able to do whatever I wanted, like, you know, and I think it was just I was more ignored because I was 5'6" than anything. And I could just go off and do whatever, right? So I was always pretty free. I never really had that like box of you need to be sad for some crappy reason, right? But it wasn't until I really started doing meditation, I really started reading a lot about, you know, just like philosophy and you know, like I started reading a lot about the mind and a lot about just emotions and just reading a lot about everything, that I really started to realize that, you know, you have that choice, you know. I call it the privilege of personal responsibility. Like you can take the responsibility of your own actions. You can take responsibility of my attitude today, and you can take responsibility of everything in your life and choose to act however you want to it. You know, usually what happens is, you know, something bad happens. You get told you have cancer, and all these emotions pop up and all these angers and all this other stuff comes popping up, and you have to deal with all that stuff, and you think those emotions are you. Those emotions are your reactions and everything like that, when all it is just emotions. They're just something that happens, and you as the controller or whatever it is can choose to say, I'm going to be absorbed in this anger, and I'm going to be absorbed in this hate and absorbed in this fear and this victim, and that's going to identify me. Or I can choose not to, and I can say, yes, this sucks, and I am angry and I am pissed off, and that's okay. It's just part of the experience. But I don't need to sit in that all day, every day. It doesn't serve me. It's not helping me grow. It's not helping me get anywhere. It's not doing anything for me. So why waste my time with it? And I think it was like, for me, it was since cancer, and like I said, like a lot of meditation, a lot of reading, a lot of searching, a lot of questioning myself. And really, when I say myself, it's questioning my ego. You know, it's questioning why does it need to fit in this box? Why do I need to act this way to this? Why, when my wife doesn't do something that I expected her to, am I mad about that? I don't control her. Like, you know, it's my own crazy, you know, attachments to something that's making me get pissed off or making me feel happy or whatever. And, you know, the realization I had was just, I can choose to be happy 100% of the time. I remember I was reading some philosophy, and they had a question in there to ask. And, you know, I asked myself the question. The question was, you know, can you make a deal with yourself to be happy 100% of the time? And not 90% of the time, or happy until your car gets broken, or happy until something, but 100% of the time, can you make a deal with yourself to be happy? And I really sat there and I had to think about it for a long time, but finally I was just like, yeah, like, why not? Like, why can't I be happy? Why can't I smile in the face of doom and say, bring it on, you know, like, let's live this life. Let's go for it and just do it. Like, you know, it's been fun. And, you know, like, answering that question, really, really believing yourself is one of the most powerful things in the world. Like, I remember there was a time when I was driving into the office, 2 years ago now, where I was driving into the office and I had read, I think, Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. And one of the things she talked about is like loving and accepting. And I remember looking in my rearview mirror, and it just like, it clicked in my head, and I just said it out loud. You know, I looked at myself in the eye and I said, I love you and accept you. I love you and respect you. And I really just started bawling, like just fucking crying for no reason besides like, holy shit, I can't remember the last time I looked myself in the eye and told myself I love you, and told myself I respect you and accept you, and everything about you I just totally love. And once I did that, like, all these things just started breaking loose from me of like, you know, well, I need to have money to be successful. And I just totally let go of that. And to me, it's like, I don't care about money. I don't care if I ever make a dime again, because I know I can be happy regardless, you know. And then, you know, it's like I need to have everything my way. Like, I need this world to bow to me to be okay. Like, I just totally let go of that. Like, no, like, I just can be okay with anything that comes my way, you know. Like, I am untouched by anything outside of, you know, myself, because I choose to be. But that doesn't mean I'm heartless and cold or, you know, apathetic or anything. Like, I fully accept my emotions, and I fully, you know, like, I love deeper than I've ever loved before, and I get pissed off deeper than I've ever been pissed, you know? But I'm okay with that, you know. It's okay to have those things and cycle them through. So
it's funny. I've had a few friends who've gone into that whole, looking into the mirror and saying that they love themselves. And it's something I've never done. something I think I'm scared of doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard from so many people that have done it, and just they just feel this like huge weight off their shoulders, and they just break down.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. That's I'll set up an accountability partner or something like that, and make sure I do it within the next.
I'll be your accountability buddy.
There you go. Yeah, no, that's I've heard enough people about that, and apparently it's just a game changer.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I think one of the reasons like we fear it and everything like that, and I know for me is I just hated myself, like because I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't care to ask myself those questions. I was just going day to day, and like you'd find those moments of happiness, and then you'd get back into that little you get home, and it's just well shit, it's just this again, right?
Yeah. It's like this entrepreneurial hamster wheel where many of us build businesses we hate to enable us to buy things we don't need, to impress people we don't even like, and we just stay on this hamster wheel on and on and on.
Mm-hmm. And I think like subconsciously you know that, and so you don't look yourself in the eye. It's hard to look yourself in the eye and actually look at you. It's not the facade that you put up for everyone else, but it's you looking at you. And really being able to say, you know what? Fuck everything else. Fuck what everyone else thinks or anything else. But I love you. And at the end of the day, who else is going to? All those other people that are telling you should do something or you need to be something bigger. Like screw them. Like if you don't care about yourself, why does it matter?
Yeah, it's funny. I had I guess my own little situation where I was driving probably like 5 months ago, and I was at like a stoplight or listening to music or something. And I was looking in the mirror, and I for some reason I thought of the words like my dad saying he's proud of me, and I broke down, and I was like, that has probably been an unconscious driver for me for the past 10, 11 years as being an entrepreneur, because those words I've never heard from him, and it's these unconscious things that until you really start digging deep, they really direct your life. You know what I mean? They truly do.
It's crazy. It's crazy how much. I mean, most people think they're in control of their lives, right? And most people just go through habit, just every single day they wake up, they do the same routine over and over and over again. And those drivers are so ingrained in us and so subconscious. And we don't even know why we're doing the things that we're doing. We've never thought to question ourselves. We never thought to ask ourselves, well, why do I get up at this time every single day? Or why do I make the choice to eat this every day? Or why do I choose to work at this job? Or why is it at this time I always get depressed or I always get sad? And you hear those people that at 3 o'clock I got to take a nap, or at 3 o'clock I'm just crabby. It's like, why? Like why don't we ask ourselves those questions? And really, like you look in the mirror and it's your dad saying he's proud of you, and how big of a driver that is. We just never question those things. We never ask ourselves, why do I have a drive? Why do I care to be successful? And it's just interesting. And that's one of the things that like you had experienced and that I had to spend a lot of time doing is really saying, holy crap, I'm not running my own life. Like it's just being run automatically for me. And until I can really start looking at it and understanding the triggers and the things that are driving me, I can't control anything. But once you figure those things out, life's just freaking ecstasy. It's amazing. Like every moment's amazing. It's pretty awesome.
I mean, as time goes on, I'm becoming to realize that 90% of our goals aren't our goals. You know what I mean? There's somebody else's goals to a degree.
Yeah.
There's a great quote by Viktor Frankl, and I don't want to butcher it, but it's something along the lines of like between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space lies we have the opportunity to kind of choose the meaning for an event, and there lies our freedom to a degree. How have that, like one of my biggest focuses that I'm always trying to do is, or at least focus for the year, is how do you create that space? Because oftentimes there's an event that happens or something that happens, some kind of stimulus happens, and we automatically react. Is it just being conscious that you're reacting and try to create space, on your own, or is there something you've done to help kind of create that space?
Yeah, meditation.
Really? Okay.
Number one, I would say meditation, and then the things I've learned through meditation and through a lot of the stuff I've done is like when you find that space. Meditation will help you see that space, but meditation is not something that you do and then all of a sudden it's like, oh great, I'm cured, I'm fixed. It's a journey, right? It's becoming more and more aware. And one thing that I found, an exercise that works really well for me, is when I notice, I don't judge myself. So let's say something happens, my kid comes and does something, and I get angry. And then I'm angry throughout the day. And, let's say 4 hours later or a week and a half later, I realize, holy shit, I was angry because of this event. I could look back and then be all pissed off that I didn't catch it at that event. And then I could be pissed off that it took me a week. And then I could be pissed off that it took me another 4 days to get over it. And I could do all that. Or I could just not judge myself and say, great, guess what? I noticed. It took me 6 months or a week or a year to notice, but I noticed. And then move forward and not judge yourself and not live in the past and everything like that. And so when you find that you are aware of those gaps, or you find that you have caught yourself in awareness, celebrate it and move on. I talked with one of my friends that had a big problem of like, well, and even my sister has bipolar, and she asked me kind of a similar question of, I find myself getting into these negativity patterns. And then when I find myself, when I'm aware that I'm in these negative patterns, I get mad because I didn't catch myself earlier. And then that throws me into another, it kind of compounds. And I think for me, it's that once you're aware, celebrate immediately and then move on, and don't judge yourself. Don't get mad. Don't get angry that you weren't, didn't do it sooner, because at the end of the day, it's your path. It's your own path, and that's where I caught myself a lot, was I'd compare myself against other people. I'd compare myself against Jesus, right? I compare myself against Buddha and like all these people that are these sages, or Gandhi or Mother Teresa or, Martin Luther King, whatever it was. And I compare myself and say, well, they were this, but I'm so far behind them. And it took me a long time to realize, like, holy shit, like the only reason they're Martin Luther King Jr. is because they were only Martin Luther King Jr. He wasn't trying to be Gandhi. He wasn't trying to be someone else. He was just going to be him. And he accepted as he failed that was okay. That was part of the journey, that just was moving forward and going. And when I got that in my mindset of like, okay, holy shit, like I don't need to be the next Bill Gates. I don't need to make Molding Box the multi-billion-dollar company. I don't need my personal life. I don't need, a car. I don't even own a car. I don't need a watch or all this other stuff. Like that's not me. Like this is me. I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to be damn happy about being me. And when I realize that I made mistakes, I will realize it and be happy I realized it and move forward, and not say, well, I could have stopped it, an hour ago or a year ago or whatever it is. And then, even with meditation, like, I talk with a lot of people that are just, they say it's so hard to start meditation, and it's so difficult. I can never be a yogi that's going to do it for an hour and sit still and everything like that. And I'll tell you, like my first time doing meditation, I lasted like 38 seconds. I literally sat down. I was just like, oh, okay, fuck this. Like, I can't do it, But it's just, it was 38 seconds that first day, and then it was a minute the next day, and then it was a minute and 5 seconds the next day, and then it was 5 seconds the next day. And then it was just constantly moving forward. It was relentless forward motion, and not judging against yesterday or not judging against the future, and just saying the only time that is real is right now. And that time isn't even real. It's just now. It's this moment right now that's real. There is no future. There is no past. It's just right now. And what am I doing now to move forward? How am I moving forward? And great, I did that now, and that's all that matters. I did that 1 second of meditation, and then I did that 5 seconds. And you stretch it into the 30 minutes, the hour, and then now it's just incorporated. Now it's every single moment is a meditation. Every single moment is awareness. Every single second of every single day is pure meditation, because all you are is aware. And anything that comes up now you're in that space. You're living in that gap. It's not just the stimulus, then the reaction. You're living in that gap, and you see the stimulus come up, and then you can make that decision of saying, do I want to go and be angry about this? Or even, do I want to go and be happy about this? Or can I choose to say, I'm going to set that aside, that stimulus aside, because I have another goal I'm going for, because I want this in my life and I'm actually striving for it. And I can put all this aside and walk this path.
That judgment is what has kept me from continuing on with meditation. It's something I've started and stopped so many times. And as you said, the first 15 seconds, like most entrepreneurs, I have ADD. Yeah. And the first 10, 15 seconds you're in, and you're like, I'm supposed to be focusing on my breath, and you wander off to your to-do list or something your wife said or something like that. And you just get frustrated after the third or fourth time. You're like, fuck it, it's not for me. So, but everybody I know who, and I respect, and who I look up to a degree, all practice some form of meditation. So it's something I definitely, another thing to add to my accountability list right there.
Yeah, do it, man. I'm accountability buddy.
So how long do you meditate on a daily basis?
Honestly, like I'm not even going to tell you.
Okay, fair enough.
I've done Holosync for a while, and it helps with like binaural beats, and they recommend an hour.
Yeah,
I did that consistently for a long time, but now it's just kind of as needed. I'll do it. Some days it's longer, some days it's shorter. So,
so I mean, we touched on it a little before. I mean, a lot of us build our businesses at the expense of our our health and our marriage, and it's not until oftentimes we get that wake up call that we shift priorities and our mindset and stuff like that. Do you think that we need to go through a major event like a diagnosis, like a divorce, in order to really kind of have that shift? Or you think it's possible to have that kind of major shift without the major event?
I think it's possible, but not easy. And honestly, like I would say, like cancer's not easy, right? Divorcing your wife is not easy. So it's always going to be difficult. If you can do it before you lose your wife, before you lose your health, before something, or before a symptom comes, does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're way ahead of the game, and I think you can do it. I think it's way more difficult though, because with a divorce, with a diagnosis, with something like that, it really makes an entrepreneur stop, right? It makes it's such a crisis and such a catastrophe that it makes the entrepreneur actually notice it. It's like, oh shit, something actually happened outside of my own world that I need to stop thinking. I think as entrepreneurs, we get so tunnel vision and we get so focused on the prize, whatever that is, that we don't see anything else. And it takes a kick in the balls. It takes cancer. It takes, a divorce. It takes that to actually say, whoa, there's more to life than just this. I have a friend of mine that's, I don't even know, a half billionaire, a billionaire or something like that. And when I talk with him, all he is business. That it's so crazy that I try and talk with him about, to me, real subjects, right? About life and stuff, and just how engrossed in business he is. Like, I guess to him, if it drives him to happiness, great. But to me, it's like, life is so much more than that, for him to get out of that business mindset, I don't know how he could do it without something like cancer. And even for me to get out of business mindset, it took me cancer to get out of that. I think it's possible, but I think it's probably even more difficult as an entrepreneur to not have a crazy thing happen in their life and actually step back, because it takes them slowing down, right? It takes them admitting that you don't have all the answers and you could be wrong, and, shit doesn't flow the way it's supposed to all day, every day, and to admit that without having a disease or without getting a divorce or without having some crazy life experience is wow. I commend that person for sure.
Yeah, no, that's, it's one of those things. Every time I have a friend who is forced to stop because of, some kind of incident, for example, one of my good friends got into a motorcycle accident in Bali and had a good call with him last week. And just the tone of his voice, like everything, it seems like his whole model has been kind of shaken, and extremely positive. I mean, extremely grateful and stuff like that. But, and he's incredibly grateful for the situation that happened. But it seems like some kind of major event has to happen, from what I've seen in the past, for people to really pause and reflect. So I just didn't know if you had because you're a little more into this than I am. I didn't know if you had a different perception.
No. But, well, I think what it is, I mean, I think you hit it on the head, is you've heard it from a lot of people, right? And you've done all this stuff, and what have you really incorporated into your life, And not to, like call you out on your shit or anything like that. I'm sure you're doing, tons of goodness, but you hear stories about, like, my story, you hear your friends' stories and stuff like that, and you hear, okay, do X, Y, and Z, but how many people actually incorporate that into their lives until they get that stuff,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, for me, I had a business that I kind of consciously, unconsciously sabotaged and drove it into the ground until I landed $250,000 in cash debt.
Nice.
And for me, that was my rock bottom, which forced me to kind of question everything to a degree. And for everybody, it's different. It doesn't have to be, a cancer. Doesn't have to be $250,000 in debt. Doesn't have to be a motorcycle accident. It could be something small. But it's definitely there's some kind of shift that has to happen. And I think it's hard to. It's that whole kind of debate. Can you change somebody who doesn't want to be changed?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's a beautiful way to put it. You're absolutely right.
So. So I want to actually kind of switch to a few rapid fire questions, just to kind of get your thoughts on some things. So describe your average day. What are some of your rituals and what are some of your routines?
So right now it's a little bit crazy. As of today, this is my routine today. I wake up, let's say right around like 7ish. I'll kind of wake up with my son, play with him for a bit. My daughter gets up right around 7:15 to start getting ready for school. So hang out with the family. Typically, what I'll be doing is I'll make oatmeal for myself, and then I do coffee enemas. So I'm making my coffee for my coffee enema. At around 7:30, my wife will take my daughter and go to school and go drop her off. I'll do my enema between like 8 and 9, or 8. Right now it's like 7:45 till 8:30. I get in the shower, get done, go to the hospital. At 9 o'clock, have radiation, come back, and I'm just so beat right now that I just sleep. Right, like I'll take a nap, I'll wake up, and more than anything, just hang out with my family. Like, go downstairs, watch my kids play around. Probably just bullshit with my wife for a bit. We'll probably go and go for a walk, do something like that, plan dinner, and then eat dinner, hang out, talk with a couple friends, and honestly, that's really my day. Like my typical day, I'll have a phone call with my CEO, usually about 15 minutes a day or something like that, and just talk with him about the strategy, where Molding Box is going, different employees, and just to get put in my 2 cents and just kind of get a report on that. But more than anything, just let them have free reign, and then I'll check a couple emails throughout the day. But that's about it. Just really watch my kids be growing up and laugh with them, love them, show my wife I love her, and kind of just be happy. Trying to think if there's anything else. That's about it. I mean, doesn't sound like a lot. I read a book, do something like that, right? Go to bed at like 9 or 10. Sometimes we'll watch TV, but most of the time not. Like, and if it's TV, like I'll try and put on a comedy just to for shits and giggles. And then like Friday nights we'll do a movie night with my daughter and son. So we'll pick a Disney movie and watch a movie night, do popcorn and pizza. And then like Sundays, I turn off my phone on Sundays and I don't even talk about work at all. Usually we'll go to like a family dinner or something like that.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's obviously a huge emphasis on family and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
It's. I remember listening to an interview you did. You're like, my wife is amazing, and it's too bad you don't have her, or something like that. Like, I'm sure your wife's amazing too, but mine's better.
Yeah.
If you could start a charitable organization, what would you name it, and what would the cause be? And this is a good question for you because you do so much.
Yeah,
outside of your business and stuff like that.
So we actually, I have one right now called SaveJordan.org. And originally it was like to save my ass, right? So we had a bunch of like these students come in and they put together different treatment options and stuff like that. And today was the submission deadline. And just right before talking with you, I was just talking with the group I have working on that. And the thing that I think really what we're going to change it to is kind of that cancer concierge. So what I've found going through cancer and everything like that is just there is so much shit to deal with as a patient. And when you're in it, you're just lost. You have no idea who to ask what or what to do or anything like that. And typically, like what you do is just kind of like follow the doctor's advice, right? And go down that path and do what they say and just do that. But where what I did is kind of did the whole natural pathway, looked at different doctors, looked at all different treatment options, looked at all that stuff. What we've kind of decided to do is as this grows and, after I get cured or whatever, keep the foundation going as kind of that to help patients to say, hey, let us point you in the right direction. Here's the people to talk to. I know doctors won't tell you, this will cure cancer or not, but I don't care. Like, we'll tell you, this is what I did. This is what other patients have done, and just really be that source to help melanoma and then help patients through cancer. So probably that. We also have helped, we do a lot. So I have this other thing called Stop Hunger Now, which is feeding exactly what it is, Stop Hunger Now. And so I've been part of that organization for probably about the last 2 years and, support them heavily on just ending starvation. I was over in the Philippines at the end of 2013 to help with the hurricane or the typhoon down there and kind of just with some logistics on getting more food down there. And then we've run some meal drives here where we've packaged meals and stuff like that. I think we've done about 50,000 ourselves. And we're working with the RSL, the Real Salt Lake here, to do 1 million meals here in August to kind of meals for, just the hungry. So doing that, I don't even know. We support, as a family, we support like the homeless shelters here and give a percentage of so as a family, we donate 10% of our income to just charitable causes. Stop Hunger Now has been our main one that we've done, but we support like the homeless shelter, the Road Home, I think they have a 4th Street clinic here. We've donated to, like I said, the Utah Food Bank and, just all sorts of stuff. So trying to do everything. We do St. Jude's. We've done primary children's. We're doing a little bit more now on melanoma. So like donating to melanoma and stuff like that as well.
So you have no small plans?
No, not at all.
What is one of your proudest moments and why?
What is one of my proudest moments? I think, honestly, it's going to be a personal one. I think one of my proudest moments is facing one of my biggest fears and just doing it anyway. There's some like with my wife, like one of my fears is like, the reactions I get, right? Or being just saying stupid shit. So there was a time where, me and my wife were talking and she had said something and I started asking all these questions. Just got to that point where, I just got frustrated and left and leaving, was in the car, kind of like sat down and just kind of went through my head and just finally realized like, holy crap, this is what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of really being intimate with my wife, really going out and just putting myself out there and being vulnerable. And so turned the car around, came back and just, sat down with my wife and, we talked through the issues and everything was, it's a relationship. So it's all crazy, but, getting through it and working through it and everything like that. And actually like exposing myself to that hurt and everything was, I'd say, one of my personal proudest moments. Like business wise, like letting go and really seeing Molding Box succeed and seeing the people and the culture we've created there has been a really proud moment. But I think for me, like my pride moments are myself, like my internal things. And then for my kids, like proud moments for my kids is daily. Like honestly, like seeing my kids grow up is just the most amazing thing in the world. Like seeing my son, like, being able to just talk now and like interact and like, it's just insane. And like my daughter, she's turning 5 on Sunday and just how much she has changed as a human being and how far she has grown is just like every day is just a source of huge pride. And then just the relationship with my wife, like just from where we were before cancer to where we are today is a level that I can't even thank God enough if there's a God out there or whatever enough to what it's become, just the level of communication we have and the level of intimacy and stuff that we do have with each other is phenomenal. And we see that we have light years to go, but being able to stop and recognize and look at the progress we've made has been freaking awesome. It's a super proud moment.
That's awesome, man. Who is the first person that comes to mind when you hear the word successcause and why?
Me. Hell yeah, me.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. Because because I could think of, 1,000 people that could say, well, this person, that person, this person, but me. Like success is individual. I think success is me. I think being able to sit here and watch my kids and love my wife and have a great business and be able to, have an interview with you and talk with you and just bullshit about life, Be real with someone, be authentic and not care what you think about me or what I think about you and just be open and honest and touch another human being. Like that's success to me. To someone else, like who knows? I don't care what someone else thinks is success to them. And if someone's successful, great. If they have wealth and they drive a Bugatti and you can fly wherever, awesome. I'm happy for them. But, success to me is me. And that's what I'm sticking with.
It's a great answer. I mean, I've asked it to a lot of people and I've never heard somebody say themselves. And it definitely doesn't. And I think it comes down to, again, that whole like loving and accepting yourself and that kind of thing. It's an interesting angle. Thank you for that. Thank you for that answer. Complete the following statement. I lose track of time when.
Haha, daily, man. I don't even know what time it is now.
I can't even ask you any more questions. You just keep throwing curveballs.
Well, I try, man. Well, that's the thing. Like, honestly, like, I don't remember. Like I said, like on Sundays, I turn off my phone. I don't put things in moments anymore. I don't live within the constraints of time. Like, for me and my wife, like, just every moment I lose track of time. Just sitting there looking at my kids, and it comes to awareness, right? Mm-hmm. It comes to appreciation and being able to. Right now, I can literally sit by myself and not be thinking about a million things or to-do lists or anything like that. Or I can be with my daughter and just be fully absorbed in her conversation and really be present with her. You know, I guess those are the times when I really lose track of time. Is just when I'm living my life, when I'm with my wife, when I'm with my kids, when I'm, here talking with you. I lose track of time. When I get into work or when I get into, like, trying to make money or trying to be famous or trying to go for something, that's when I, when I notice time, when I'm trying to make the world conform to what I think it should do is when I think about time, But when I've learned a lot, and one of the things I've learned is time goes on. Time is just an illusion, because you look at like the mountains, and what is time to them? What is time to a tree? What is time to the stars? It's all relative. And to me, it's like, well, I'll just live in the galaxy. I'll just live in the crazy space where I don't want to be part of the 24-hour clock or the 8-hour work day or the 4-hour work week or what. I just want my own time schedule, and I'm just going to make it up and be that,
I'm kind of afraid to ask the next question, but the next one I had was, if you could invite 3 people, living or dead, to your home for dinner, who would they be and why?
Oh, damn, man. That's a good one. I'd say Jesus Christ, because just awesome. Not for the sense of like, yay, he's going to save my ass, I'm going to go to heaven, but just, well, I don't even know about Jesus. Let me rephrase it. Let me think about this for a second. Let me really think about this. I would say Gandhi, old Gandhi, because he was one of the most inspiring people I've ever read. What he did for not just like the humanitarian he was, but like also the fuck you to everyone. Like, he was his own person. He totally owned who he was and was just Gandhi. Like, there was no other Gandhi in the world. And like, he was educated well enough, but like the fears that he had to overcome and just the person he was just phenomenal, right? Like, an amazing person. Someone else, my wife, honestly, to dinner. If there was going to be someone, I'd totally want my wife there, because like the shared experience with her is just awesome, right? The bullshit with like a Gandhi with her would be amazing. It would have experience. And then lastly, who would be interesting and why? Maybe Hitler. I mean, as weird as that sounds, to just understand that part of the human experience, to see from a Gandhi to a Hitler, right? To see that they're both human. They both came from some upbringing, just to be able to have that conversation and get the 2 wildly different perspectives on life, and to be able to sit there and have that conversation, it would just be amazing. And then to be able to, like, ask just the crazy questions and then realize that, that's just 2 different aspects of yourself, and to be able to, and the reason I would want my wife there is to be able to talk with my wife about this stuff, right? And then, grow as people as we go through. So
you are all curveballs. Last 2 questions. What's an interesting fact about yourself that not many people would know?
I went to college for a ballroom dance scholarship.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is another curveball.
That's unique.
And last question. This one actually is relevant. If your closest friend wrote a book about your life, what would the title be? It sounds like you're writing a book. So, do you have an idea as to what the title for that book will be?
I was thinking The Privilege of Personal Responsibility, but I don't know if that would sell well. So we'll see. I did have a friend of mine recommend a book. You'd say Crossing the River Jordan. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting. But I think it makes a lot of sense, because pre-cancer, I'll say, what is that? PC versus post-cancer. Well, it's the same thing. I don't know. AD, BC, whatever, right? Are totally different people, right? And I think it's been an incredible journey, and I think I've lived more of a life than most people have that are 4 times my age. So.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for episode 5. If you enjoyed this episode, nothing would make me happier than to hear your thoughts and your biggest takeaways. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at Jason Gaynard, JaysonGaynard, or email me at jason@communitymade.com. For show notes and any resources mentioned in this episode, visit the Community Made group. If you're not a member, it's free. Simply visit communitymade.com to get access. If you enjoyed the podcast, I would be forever grateful if you could get the word out by sharing it with a friend, rating it on iTunes, or leaving a review. Next season, we'll be doing a showcase of what I like to call the Reviewer of the Week. I actually stole this from my good friend Lewis Howes. So to be considered for that, simply leave an honest review on iTunes. I appreciate the love and support. You know I do. I look forward to having you on the next episode where I share a candid conversation. I'm excited about this one. A candid conversation with 2 really good friends of mine, Tony Guernsey from Roma Molding and Matthew Bertulli from DMAC Media. We talk about parenting as an entrepreneur, company culture, core values, and so much more.
Culture, it's a weird thing. It's like you have to, I can't define it. You get asked all the time, like, what does culture mean? I'm like, I don't fucking know.
I don't know. I think for me, it's
intuitive.
If you had to describe it, I would say it's the DNA or soul of the organization. It's how the company shows up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a feeling. That's the way I would describe it.